Hey guys, welcome back to Fromthedepths with ChillBuilder here. Today we're doing episode 6 of Imperial Navy versus Neater against the Great Talons. We have our first battle in this episode against the Achievement. This is a heavy destroyer at 260,000 materials. It's coming up against 3 of our destroyers, which obviously completely overmatches this ship. It's a very Warhammer aesthetic, but it uses missiles instead of actual broadside cannons, and we're landing good hits on it. So far in this campaign, we haven't lost a single capital ship, so I definitely would like to keep it that way. The next battle here is against a Zephyr. This is also a very repetitive battle. We have defeated a lot of Zephyrs in this campaign so far. Since defeating the Scarlet Dawn, we're moving our 3 cruiser force down from the north, and we have moved off our assorted small fleets of destroyers and frigates west to the southern part of the Great Talon territory, and we have constructed some new ships, a battleship and a battle cruiser, to take on the heavily fortified Great Talon defenses. At this point, we control so much of the map that we're getting more resources. We're getting resources faster than we're able to spend it, even just by building battleship after battleship. Well, the Great Talons used to be known for a very boring faction to defeat. Not so much to fight, but to vanquish them from the map is very boring because they have 5 of these super tanky, super expensive fortresses that are basically identical. So you're sitting through 5 fairly long fights repeatedly, right? So recently they replaced one of these fortresses with the Peacekeeper. Well, it's basically 1 million material, so it's just a normal battleship. It's got lots of guns, lots of APS, and it's a Frontsider, so it does appear to be fairly resistant to laser and fire damage, unlike the Scarlet Dawn craft that we fought. It's got very interesting turret configuration with these transverse turrets that can span the whole width of the craft, and they use light blocks to connect the front and back of the craft, which is, you know, preventing spin clipping, but it will have a very interesting effect where in a minute you see what kind of damage it does to the battleship. Our own cruiser has bobbing up and down motion. We have very strong lambs, and we have shields, and we keep at a distance, so they're not doing too much damage to our cruisers. This Peacekeeper battleship has a very interesting death animation where the ship explodes and splits into 2, and then the front half becomes a submarine. It's quite unique among other Great Talon crafts, or pretty much any crafts in the Neater campaign. Now look at how the Peacekeeper falls into the water. The way it explodes and falls is very reminiscent of the Hindenburg, which is pretty cool. So this is a debut battle for our Imperial Navy battleship. It's armed with all crams, So it's very specialized in a siege role, which is perfect for defeating our first Raven's Nest in this playthrough. As you can see, it's firing lots of crams. There's a lot of distraction crams designed to activate enemy munition defenses, and then we fire our actual broadside. The two broadsides are perfectly timed with the reload cycle on the guns and the time to turn for the entire ship. So the firepower for guns on either side is never wasted. The guns are always either firing or in the reload cycle. The crams are a very specialized weapon. Is almost completely ineffective against a fast, evasive target that can kite the ship pretty much, and is extremely effective against a static target like this. And yeah, now you see the Raven's Nest have been AI deaded. The crams are 180-degree frag with 10 to 20% load of incendiary damage. That allows the damage to spread out a little bit from the points of fragment impact. This next battle involves our cruiser trio. First, they fight off this little Weaver, which is kind of like a small industrial unit. The cruiser trio does very pinpoint damage, which is completely opposite of the crams on our battleship. You saw how effective the lasers were from the light cruisers against the Scarlet Dawn, but they're completely ineffective against a massive spread out target like this, with lots of compartments, with lots of metal that doesn't catch on fire. Yeah, it's another very specialized weapon against very dense aerial high-speed targets. Lucky enough, we have our heavy cruiser, which have its kinetic broadside that can do a little bit more efficient damage than just those lasers. We didn't destroy the Raven's Nest as quickly as the close quarter Battleship did with the cram broadsides, but the Raven's Nest did stop firing quite early through the battle, which kind of signals that the AI transmitter may have been destroyed with a lucky shot. It's kind of crazy to see entire part of a craft being shared off. This is the second time that's happened in this episode, which is pretty cool. I can never get tired of watching the heavy cruiser fire off its kinetic broadsides. It's such an impressive sight to see. So with this, you can kind of see each ship in the Imperial Navy fleet has its own characteristic, right? Battleship is a siege specialist. It uses crams. The heavy cruiser uses kinetic broadsides, which is a little bit more effective at longer range. The laser cruiser cheats a little bit because it doesn't use its fixed broadsides as its main weapon. It has a laser turret, but the fixed broadsides are for munition defense, so they're not fake guns. They do actually contribute to part of the ship's overall kit. The destroyers are the close quarter specialists with its close quarter low speed death guns. And then finally, the frigates also have diff guns, but they have pretty good frontal arc weapons, so they use both sides and the front as equally. Here we can see the battle cruiser in action against the Great Talon Demacy. This craft is a little bit of a cheat because it's a Frontsider and it uses all plasma weapons. Because it's a Frontsider, I don't want to use it too much. It's not really in the spirit of how the Imperial Navy looks and operates in terms of the flight pattern, but it's a good safeguard against pure Frontsider designs. It's a good counter. And I did build this way before I built the laser cruisers, which honestly I think is a little bit more effective actually against Frontsiders. I do want to show the ship off once, just in this context, but I'll try not to use it again. This battle was actually fairly long and boring, but eventually we chew through the armor of that Demacy and cut it in half again. Here we got a small village raid once again. More interesting looking with these frigates doing lots of maneuvering. They're very agile. Really, I can never get tired of looking at them. And I've never seen two frigates collide. They're just so nimble. They're always good at moving out of the way. And then they have weapons facing all three sides, so they're always firing at something. It's just so dynamic to look at. So despite how well my ships are doing and how good they are pretty much designed specifically to take damage, these frigates are no match for the Raven's Nest. They're like 10% of the cost and firepower of a Raven's Nest. I'm not interested in losing ships at this point. I've never lost a ship. At least, again, not a capital ship. I lost plenty of fighters and gunships, I think. The breadboard for these broadsiders are honestly crazy, right? The simplest thing you do is the broadside timing, so you turn to one side, fire, and then you reload, and you turn to the other side and fire. That's really simple. But then once the enemies start moving, either in a tangential direction to your ship, or moving away, then you got either chase them down, or if you're shooting past them, you got slow down to not shoot past them. That makes turning easier. And then I also put in compensation factors if the enemy is moving to the right and the breadboard timer isn't split evenly. I will spend more time turning to the right to make sure the right side broadside would go off instead of spending the time to turn and then not being able to fire and then turning to the left again and firing the left side twice without being able to fire the right side once, to avoid firepower being wasted. I mean, all this can be avoided just by using turrets, but you know, it's all about the aesthetics. All in all, it took almost 2 weeks to develop the breadboard for these craft. Once the breadboard is developed, I can just copy paste it. Most of that time is just testing. Like, you build something a little bit and then you test, and then you see it doesn't work and you tweak a little bit, you test again, and each time you test is 10-15 minutes of just watching it and trying to figure out what's wrong with the breadboard. So yeah, that's it for the Great Talons. All of their bases belong to us. So if you enjoyed this episode of From the Depths, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoy From the Depths content, please leave a like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.